Jimi Hendrix, aside from being one of the foremost beaver trappers of his day, was also a pretty nasty rhythm guitarist. So today we're going to talk about some really cool stuff that I learned just from listening to Jimmy's playing. He was probably the most influential player for me early on. So we're just going to go through one of the all-time classics, Purple Haze, and just talk a little bit about Jimmy's rhythm playing and how much you can learn from it, because there's just such a wealth of information in the short amount of time that he was here playing guitar, right? So the main riff in standard tuning, or the main rhythm part in standard tuning, sounds like this. Okay, so it's a little bit different every single time he plays it. And I remember first learning this and I was like, how is he doing it differently every time? Like, to me, that kind of creativity and improvisation in a rhythm section made no sense to me, right? But then once you kind of see the forms and shapes that he uses a lot, it'll make more sense. So I'm rocking the Fender Ultra Strat. I'm going into the Dunlop Jimi Hendrix band of Gypsies Fuzz into the Fender Deluxe Reverb amp, okay? So we're going to learn how to do all of these in this lesson coming up right here. Now, we got to start out with the Jimmy chord right here. Okay, so this is like that E7 sharp 9 chord, whatever you want to call it, the Jimmy chord. We got to start with that, where your middle finger is on the E and the A string, 7th fret, pointer fingers on the 6th fret of the D string, ring fingers on the 7th fret of the G string, and your pinky is on the 8th fret of the B string, right? Now, the great thing about this is you can hit the open E string as a root. Right? So you have like an open E, and then you have its next octave E to kind of get the chords. You get like a root, then a chord. Okay? And really that juxtaposition of nailing the root first and then doing something Jimmy-ish with the rest of the chord is, I think, a big signature part of his playing, right? So we're gonna leave this chord alone, because this is gonna be the non-negotiable part of the rhythm. Okay, so if we count it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4. All right, so we'll call this 2 bars of E. And then we're going to go to really just G, a bar of G, and a bar of A, okay? Now, again, you can play this however you want. At its core, you could just play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G major to A, then back to E, right? But that doesn't sound like Purple Haze at all. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take this bar chord shape, the same shape for both chords, not using my thumb. Sorry, all you Jimmy truthers out there. This isn't a thumb over lesson. We're going to use a traditional major chord bar shape rooted on the E string. So I'm barring the 3rd fret, ring finger and pinky have 5A and 5D. Middle finger has 4G. The major 3rd, this is really important. We'll get to that in a second. Basically, we're going to get the root note first 2 times, right? So here's the E, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4. Root twice, chord, root twice, chord. Okay? So, at its core, that can just be one way to play it, but he never plays it the same way twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4. Now, again, getting that kind of sound is very, consistent with, I think, the core structure of that song. But I want to talk about just a ton of different ways that he utilizes just this shape. We can, instead of just going root, chord, a million things we could do here. This is one. This is another. Okay, and it wasn't until I really understood a little bit of the music theory and presentation behind these chords that I really could kind of have fun with this and really try to mimic his style, or maybe at least develop an ear for what he was doing. So the first thing that I think is really a signature of his playing is this thing right here. So if we get that G major chord, remember that major 3rd that I said was right there, the 4th fret of the G string, this is the perfect spot for a hammer on with your ring finger. So we have the major third, like I said, the 4th fret here, hammer on, ring finger to the 5th fret, then pull off. You do that really fast. And then bring it back down to the 5th fret of the D string. Okay, something like that, right? Now you can do your pinky too. Like that. Doesn't matter how you get it. Again, there's a lot of different ways to do it. The nice thing about the thumb overplaying is it frees up your ring finger a little more. But again, in this shape, just use your pinky, right? So that's just a quick one that you can do on both chords. See how that worked? There's the G chord with the hammer on. You can slide it right into the A chord. Okay, and that's Jimmy-ish. That's just one thing that you can do. And that's something you can do over any major chord, is take that major third and then hammer on 1 fret higher, back off, and then back into which is really the octave of the root note, which is what we're gonna do next, okay? This is just another way to look at it. And this little hammer on, especially when you hit it with the string below it, you just get a little bit of extra, a little bit of nastiness there, right? So again, that's just kind of like a hammer-on technique that you can do. But like I said, what we're doing is we're taking the major third and the root note, kind of taking a piece of that major chord, okay? We can duplicate this octave lower. So again, remember, we said our root note is the 3rd fret on the E string both ways. So we could really just kind of simplify it. E. And then just have a root note, it's major third. So here's like a piece of a G major chord into a piece of an A chord. And then we can really get that. Okay? Sometimes you'll hear him play some stuff like that where it's just the lower kind of register of these voicings, and he's just. And that's just really a G to an A. So that's really kind of the same move, just in different octaves. Okay? So, again, speaking of octaves, we can actually do a full octave run with a lot of these things, which is something else that I can hear in a lot of his live playing, especially. So instead of going from G to A, remember, in a G major chord, we have a G, and then it's major third. It's just like what we've been doing it, but you can stay in the same string and just go 2 frets or 2 full steps or 4 frets higher, right? So G to A to B, and then if we octave it up, we can kind of really just double up on those intervals, which are kind of like chord tones, I suppose. So we can kind of outline this G major chord instead of like we can go up. All right, so it's representative of a G. We're just playing something in G major spot, and then we can recreate that for the A major spot. So instead of just an A, we can go. All right, so instead of, we've got E. We've already got a lot of different things that we can use, right? The next thing that maybe we can kind of take this little bluesier is one of these kind of like higher triad things where we get the hammer on the B string instead now. Now remember, we hammered on the G string where its major third was. We do the same thing with the B string. Okay? So for the G chord, that D is its 5th, right? The distance in a major chord from the 5th note in its scale to the 6th note is going to be 2 frets. So now it's all about that B string to the major third. Okay? And then when you do it in part of like a chord shape, you can kind of take your pinky off. Okay, or just kind of cheat. or even make it like a, okay? Again, something that I hear in a lot of his playing too is just taking that, the top of that triad. So if it's G major, we've got 3, 3, and 4. Just like that. And then the A chord, right? So. All right, just another one to do. Now, what else could we do? Well, we know that A is going to be in this key, so we can move that same thing down to the high E string. Okay? So, really 2 chords, there's an infinite amount of things that we can learn here. We've got hammer-ons on the G string, the B string, the high E string, that we can repeat for the A shape. And then we have octave runs. And even more. Double stops are another big part of it. The last one we're going to do is... he likes to kind of slide around through these like really cool double stop shapes. I think one of the easiest ones, especially if you're in a bar chord shape like this, your ring finger and your pinky are together, right? So in any major chord, you can always slide those a step higher. So we've got G, A, double stops, octaves, G string hammer-ons, B string hammer-ons, high E string hammer-ons. That lower, the octave of that. So again, there's really just an infinite amount of things, and he does all this kind of in the span of one performance. So that's why it can be daunting to really look at those Hendrix tabs, because you see all these different things that you probably have never seen tabbed or notated before. At least that's how it was when I first looked at him. But once you see how he's breaking this chord up, you kind of like pick up on some of his tricks. And it really like lends itself perfectly to fun rhythm guitar playing, because there is a lot of lead playing type things in there. And again, I think there's a symmetry to a lot of his playing where he'll do one thing here and then he'll do something similar for the next chord. So that's why I think this is a really great example, because we have these back-to-back major chords. The shapes are going to be the same for most of them, but you still end up with something super Jimmy that is definitely going to be, you know, his in a very signature way, but a way that you can also kind of like use your own creativity and have a lot of fun with. So if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website, or my Patreon, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.